Alrighty, guys, welcome back. It's your boy EQ, and up next we have why Drake just dissed Kendrick again, and everyone hates him for it. Drake took a little break from his new streaming career to drop some music, another failed attempt at him trying to portray himself as a victim when he is far from it. And by him bringing up the beef again, he's further proving the narrative that he is still very bothered, contrary to all the statements coming from him and his camp. And I wonder if the initial leak and takedown was a way of him checking the temperature to get an idea of the potential reception before them being released for good. He's seemingly taking aim at the people he deems to have abandoned him, such as LeBron James and DeMar DeRozan, amongst others, when honestly, I don't think the decision to show love to Kendrick was really that deep or hard to figure out why. LeBron is the star player of Kendrick's hometown Los Angeles Lakers and always likes to portray himself as some type of hip-hop historian, and that night was definitely history. As far as DeRozan, the dude is literally from the same town and literally said they're like family, and that supersedes friendship. And I really don't think either actually hated Drake during the beef, but who knows the type of energy they have now for Drake, especially with all the pettiness Drake has shown. But enough dilly-dallying, let's jump right into the video. Up next, we have why Drake just dissed Kendrick again, and everyone hates him for it. And Drake, if you really want people to think you've moved on, then just move on and let this go. Because at this point, the way you're handling the situation is definitely showing people that you're still very, very sensitive about the topic.
Now, Drake has just dissed Kendrick Lamar within a way that we have not seen from him in quite some time, as to kick off this new year in hip-hop, instead of ranting on streams or whining on social media, Drake has actually gotten back in the booth and has released a new song where instead of switching genres or languages in an attempt to try and just run away from everything that Kendrick Lamar did to him and represented, now Drake is once again trying to take him head-on with nothing more than his bars and a beat from Conductor Williams. And now, as this marks just in a few days the second full-on record that is dissing Kendrick Lamar to come out this year, and this is from none other than Drake, what is clear is that the rap game...
You probably saw that diss from Joey Badass and was like, yo, this is the right time. Maybe people will band together against Kendrick. But Joey's going to have to try a lot harder to try to elicit any type of response from Kendrick.
Team is running around and trying to find a way to take down the undisputed champion of everything, and really with Drake here, what it seems like he's trying to specifically do is, after seeing how every single way he tried to make a comeback just failed miserably, whether that was releasing more music, switching genres, tried to Drake here, what it seems like he's trying to specifically do is, after seeing how every single way he tried to make a comeback just failed miserably, whether that was releasing more music, switching genres, or trying to be a full-on streamer, now Drake...
I feel like every stream has been an L moment for Drake. He's trying to garner love from probably the most toxic people on the internet.
Drake is trying to get back in the rap game by poking Kendrick enough to the point where it gives him the attention that he would otherwise never get at this point. But now, before we dive into every single diss Drake threw out at Kendrick here and why he is saying all...
I will say this, he is getting attention, it's just not the type of attention he wants. Like I've been saying for a while, the guy has been getting more dislikes on his content than likes over the past year, and honestly for him, that's obviously a major 180.
Of these things at this very moment, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And so now with this new track from Drake, which is seemingly titled Fighting Irish, right in line with everything else he has done ever since he lost to Kendrick Lamar within a fashion like we have never seen before. This song is very emotional and
football reference, so maybe he's trying to pull off a double entendre, but Kendrick Lamar is about to headline the halftime show, so that's the majors.
Drake is showing that his feelings did really get hurt bad in this beef, but instead of acting like a total clown, Drake is at least putting this sadness and bitter feeling of loss back into the bars directly, which, hey, after somehow managing to make every single wrong choice for almost an entire calendar year, this is somewhat of a step in the right direction. And now with Drake actually presenting...
Well, I mean, give it like another, 2 months, and it would have been a year since the beef started. And honestly, yeah, he's taken L after L. And even his attempts at trying to gain any type of W's just end up being another L.
Himself within a way that somebody who calls themselves an MC always should. For better or for worse. He does say a lot here and seemingly does two main things, which the first one is to try and justify the crash out he has been on and why he's been acting like the biggest fool in music right now. But then also, and in the greater sense, he is trying to get back in some sort of musical conflict with Kendrick Lamar, because for the first time since Family Matters, Drake is actually flipping Kendrick's bars from his diss tracks to trying and dispute them, and instead of just denying everything in the strangest way possible like he did on The Hard Part 6, Drake is somewhat on the offensive here, despite how weird it is that he is.
The thing is, he's constantly been doing that. I feel like he's definitely been leading into all the things said about him. From him putting up, if I'm not mistaken, BBL Drizzy when he was playing bowling up on the scoreboard, to rapping on the BBL Drizzy beat, all in an attempt to try to take some of the steam out of those narratives.
is doing this all of these months later. And so now after Drake starts this track off by admitting that during this legendary summer that was going on in hip-hop, he just completely missed it, which I guess is his way of saying that he never delivered those summer vibes that he promised after the beef, which I mean, I guess some self-awareness is better than nothing. From here, Drake immediately gets back into his delusional bag as he tries to call out Kendrick and find ways to discredit and diminish his win, as after framing himself as the victim of the entire music industry. He tries to discredit everything with bars like "the world fell in love with the gimmicks, even my brothers got tickets." Which now the first part of this bar is of course trying to say that everything Kendrick did against him was a gimmick, and that's just trying to underplay what...
Obviously referring to other people that showed up at the pop-out show. But the thing is, man, that event was definitely hip-hop history. So you know people weren't going to turn it down. And you acting this way is just further alienating everyone from you. Which if that's what you're trying to do, I mean, go for it, but it's definitely not gaining you any good equity.
What all of it meant and represented in the greater sense of hip-hop and the music industry as a whole, which I don't even have to go into how pathetic and wrong of a statement that is, and really for Drake to even use this angle is still showing that he is trying to rewrite and revise history in his own delusional way instead of moving forward. But what's actually showing us something new here is in the second part of this bar, where Drake is referring to all of the people who turned sides on him, and specifically, people who he once considered friends who he thought would never leave his side, which includes names like LeBron James, DeMar DeRozan, and James Harden, who all seemingly chose Team Kendrick by going to one of the greatest shows of all time, which of course happened right after Drake took his L with the pop-out. And now with Drake actually being a little introspective here and reflecting on how he felt within a way that's actually human, this part is not bad in isolation. But of course, when you remember that he has already shown how he's felt about guys like LeBron James and DeMar DeRozan turning on him, as he has already done things like unfollowing guys like LeBron, and in the case of DeMar DeRozan, he crashed out at him in person when he went to the Raptors game, which was...
He stared him down in an attempt to try to intimidate DeRozan, and DeRozan looked so unbothered. Even Drake's best friend in Chubbs, who was right next to him at the time, courtside, had to look away because of how awkward the moment was.
It was just so embarrassing. Altogether, when you see the real-life way that Drake handled these things, it really does take away from the moment and just makes Drake seem more pathetic than ever when you know the reality of how he reacted as opposed to how it's portrayed in the lyrics. And now beyond these lines, where things in this track really pick up and get a lot more intense, especially in terms of Drake just sending a clear signal for Kendrick Lamar to come back down and diss him again, is in the second verse. As Drake...
I don't think this track does nowhere near enough to elicit some type of response from Kendrick Lamar right now. I mean, the guy is preparing for probably one of the biggest months a rapper's probably ever had. This February is going to include the Grammys, which he more than likely is going to take at least 5 of those 7 nominations, if not sweep. But he's also going to headline one of the biggest stages in music, being the Super Bowl halftime show, which pulls in over 100 million viewers. Right now, this and also Joey Badass's diss is honestly going to fall on deaf ears right now.
Drake here really codes this entire performance to not just be written with language and subtle cues that are flipping terms that are associated with Kendrick Lamar and his side of the hip-hop world as a whole. But what's most important here, and if this track makes any sort of impact or causes any sort of reaction, it will be because of this, is the section in this verse where he says, "Who's got the most to lose and who's in that other position? See no conversations, boy, I hope they got double encryption. I hate to see the empire crumble on judges' convictions. This pulled a rabbit out the hat and y'all love a magician."
That UMG lawsuit is definitely not helping his reputation. All that lawsuit is really doing is just showing the immense amount of hypocrisy, since allegedly Drake is probably the one that has benefited from that system the most. And now that he's not that guy anymore in the eyes of the labels, he wants to cry foul. This isn't the first time an artist has tried to do this, and honestly, they usually do not succeed. But you can't close Pandora's box once it's open.
Drake is addressing a lot of things as he sets this moment up with the first bar, which is undermining Kendrick Lamar and making him look like this bigger and more important figure than he will ever be. Which again, when we look at Drake's performance here, this is another one of its failures, because I don't know why he is going about this same strategy again. Because his ability to not see Kendrick as an equal is one of the most vital factors to why he never even stood a chance in this beef, because his own failure in judgment made him underestimate one of the greatest and most competitive rappers of all time. But now after saying this, no matter how delusional it may be, he sends out another warning to Kendrick and his camp about how he hopes that they have been covering their tracks for everything they have been doing to seemingly manipulate the entire music industry and hip-hop world against him, which again, this is just a diss that is derived from Drake's straight delusions, and very similar to the Heart Part 6 where Drake just lied to try and sound tough and act like he knew more than he did. This just seems like another rendition of that horrible tactic, but the stakes do get even higher from here, as then Drake says, "I hate to see the empire crumble on Judge's convictions," which is the first time we are hearing him address his lawsuit on a track.
Hmm.
And now the message that he's trying to send with this line is showing that he both hopes he can win this thing to save his career, but then he is also mocking Kendrick with this bar simultaneously by saying,
The thing is, those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. So him trying to go and expose the system may only end up exposing him in the end. Because what's stopping UMG now from saying that, yeah, Drake, you have allegedly benefited from the system the most?
that he hopes the truth doesn't come out because
Yep.
that will ruin
Walk
all of
that
the
line
success that Kendrick
very
has had in
carefully.
this moment. Even though, with all the evidence presented and with the fact that we all lived through this moment and just saw the people get inspired by something Kendrick did like nothing else in hip hop has in years, no one believes anything Drake is trying to claim about Kendrick and the success of Not Like Us as a whole. But now, adding even more lyrics aimed in response to Kendrick in this track, Drake officially answers back to some of the biggest disses Kendrick threw out against him on the song that changed everything in Meet the Grams, as he tries to explain that he doesn't have a drinking problem, but then kind of admits he does have the problem, but then ultimately justifies it by saying it's subtle. And then trying to cope even more with all of this and wherever he's trying to go from here, he then says, "I got my father's habits and my mother's permission." And then again, making this entire section and response to Kendrick even more confusing. He builds on this saying, "My dad got another child. I told him that wasn't my sister." And here,
Apple doesn't far from the tree, it seems.
Drake is directly flipping Kendrick's lines about him having some serious issues, but with the way he goes about it, I don't really think this is the flex he thinks it is. And with the last bar here especially, he is seemingly expanding on Kendrick's claims about him having a daughter by then saying his dad had another child, which then I guess is trying to deflect that bar just away from him and on his father, or at least that's really the only way this bar makes some sort of sense in the context it's written in. And now with all of this, which together includes Drake trying to intimidate Kendrick with his litigation and then sees him responding to Kendrick's disses on Meet the Grams by saying everything he said is still kinda half true, all in all, while some people are going to be impressed by this and claim that Drake is back because cadence-wise he is rapping coherently over a Conductor Williams beat, when you actually try to break down what he is saying and see the things he is trying to flip, all while once again trying to
Yeah, man, it's at surface level, it may seem good, but once you really analyze the lyrics and the actual content, that's when it starts to crumble.
call Kendrick Lamar an underdog even after he has overtaken him in every single category possible. All this song really is this.
I will give him this, not every category, because obviously Drake was the most streamed rapper of the year overall, but it's not because of the current stuff he was dropping. It's all from back catalog. And when you are dropping 2, 3 projects a year, with some of those being double albums, it's no surprise that he's going to run up those streaming numbers.
Same story with a different presentation from Drake, and as he is still showing that he has learned no lessons from this beef whatsoever, and really that even despite losing, he is still using the same angles and losing strategy to try and make any sort of comeback, and even beyond all these things, making this song even more jarring, another question we have to ask ourselves entirely is, why do all of this now? I mean, when you put everything into perspective, Drake is already lost, and the actual back and forth of this beef is over in terms of diss tracks being put out. So really from Drake releasing this song where he is just ranting about a reality that he could have tried to fix way before this but didn't, all in all, while this song may be a bright spot for him in what has been one of the worst career runs both on the mic and off of it that we have ever seen from a rapper.
Yeah, what a juxtaposition. One of the worst runs in history, and we've also witnessed one of the most historical runs in history with Kendrick Lamar's.
This song is still nothing special, as he's not pushing the needle forward, and really for Kendrick, if the goal of this song was to create just enough attention to get back in
the record will be forgotten in probably like a week or two.
Conversation with him without being directly engaged in a full-on back and forth, well, Drake still failed at that, because really, what does Drake say here that makes Kendrick need to come back out and prove something to him once again? Because of course, Kendrick has already won the beef, he has the Super Bowl, he has an entire stadium tour planned, and he has the most successful rap album out right now. So really with Kendrick controlling everything right now, and Drake responding back to a few lines from a song that dropped over a half a year ago here, this is just another confusing move from Drake. But now what's really interesting is that as more rappers are coming back onto the scene and coming at Kendrick, and what's also interesting is that from Joey to Drake to even with J. Cole's 7-minute drill, they all dissed him over beats that were from none other than Conductor Williams. Well, maybe something is going on in 2025, and because of all the
yeah, maybe Drake feels like for once people are going to band together with him. I don't really see that being the case right now anyway, But it's definitely going to take a lot more than the efforts that Joey and Drake have given us.
Power Kendrick Lamar has. We are now going to see more MCs than ever, from Drake to everyone else, just try to pull out everything they can in their power to stop him from becoming the undisputed GOAT. And so now with all that said, let me know. What do you think about this new track from Drake, and what do you think this does to help his image right now in this time where he has been on one of the worst runs of all time? Now I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, man, this is definitely another failed attempt at him trying to victimize himself. I definitely do not think this is going to draw Kendrick Lamar out. Right now, Kendrick Lamar has priorities that supersede these little situations by far. I don't really think he's going to give us any real time. If Drake is going to have any chance in trying to reverse this, he might as well just lean into being the bad guy. I don't know if he really has that in him. He's kind of always tried to portray himself as the good guy. But the narrative is right now that that has all been a facade. So right now, maybe he should lean into being the heel, the villain of the story, especially with people already looking at him in that manner. And while this is being received way better than some of the other records, it's definitely not something that's going to change any narratives about him. And honestly, I think he's the one that's really alienating himself from LeBron James, from DeMar DeRozan, and all the others. Because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, I don't really think the decision was that deep. I just think they really wanted to go show love to a person that they highly admire and respect. And honestly, like I said, that moment was going to be history, and it really was. So you can't really fault any of those people for being there. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't say F all the fans that were in there because he would potentially want them to listen to him as well. And him referring to that UMG lawsuit is definitely not a good look because people look at him as weak for doing it. At the end of the day, you can't allegedly benefit from the system for over 10 years to only go and switch up on them because you're not getting that same type of attention anymore. But definitely let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about this record? Do you guys think he really changed any narratives? And do you guys think he made a great case for being a victim? I honestly don't think so. I think he's going at people that were really kind of indifferent in the whole situation, and he's only making himself look super sensitive and super bothered. But definitely let me know what you guys think. Definitely hit the like and subscribe button, guys. It does the channel wonders. Guys, thank you guys so much. The channel in less than a year has grown over 5 times the goal I had initially set out when I started making these videos. So I really want to thank you guys so much for making this channel a part of your day. It honestly means so much. The love and support you guys show on a daily is honestly overwhelming, and it's one of the biggest factors in me making these videos. So I'm definitely looking forward to what you guys have to say on this situation. So I hope you love this video, and I hope to see you guys soon. Drake, if you're going to diss Kendrick, try it better next time, fam.